Ursus U47, Irish, Apache. Every story has a beginning. Sometimes, that beginning is nothing more than a fragile thread of hope, stretching across untamed lands, unseen, yet already watched. The caravan pressed on, unaware that fate had already been etched into the arrows whispering through the wind. The Apache strike showed no mercy, and though the settlers fought back, their resistance was not enough. Only the raw instinct of a child, Ursus U47, drove him to vanish into the cold darkness of the woods. In tragedy, he found another orphan of the chaos, a bear cub, whose mother had also fallen that day. Together, they learned the laws of the wild: to hunt, to hide, to endure. Bound by loss, they forged an eternal bond. The years had not been wasted. The boy and the bear had become a single instrument of survival, a bond hammered in the iron of necessity. Yet the wild always carries its lessons in humility. The strength of one is often the weakness of two. In an instant, the hunter became the hunted, trapped in a storm of tusks and rage, with no way out. Out of nowhere, like a deus ex machina, torn from the very legends of the Apache, came their salvation. A warrior of unusual form, skin like moonlight, eyes like the open sky. He called himself El Condor, a spirit soaring between two worlds, and on that day, he chose to shape the fate of two lost souls. El Condor arrows flew true, and the beasts fell one by one beneath his storm of shafts. Guided by El Condor, the two orphans finally found a path, not one of mere survival, but of belonging. That night, Ursus broke his silence. Words, locked away for years, poured like a river of anguish: the caravan, the fire, and the arrow that left him alone. The chief listened not with pity, but with the recognition of a wound too familiar, a scar shared by every soul in that camp. And then, the old chief gave back his story. Not to compete in pain, but to complete a tale the white world had twisted for its own ends.
They came in their wooden ships, boy. Not with respect, but with the arrogance of men who claimed creation as their own. They call us savages for defending our land, but what name do they deserve? Those who killed for a shining metal? Tell me, who is the true savage here? Your war is over now, son. Here, you are no orphan. You are Ursus. And your bear brother is welcome too.
And within Ursus, a truth began to break open. He was not only a victim, he was a survivor of a war he had never chosen. Geronimo, an Apache chief of the 19th century, an untamed warrior who stood against injustice. Who was Geronimo? A man, or an indomitable spirit that defied empires? Born in the 19th century, his name thundered across the desert mountains, an Apache chief just and fierce who rose against injustice. For the first time, the orphaned boy was no longer just a witness. He was part of a right greater than his own sorrow. That night, the fire warmed more than bodies. It kindled destinies that burned to intertwine. Even the bear brother to his tragedy was welcomed as a guardian spirit, a sign the elders could not ignore. Geronimo placed in his hand a symbol, not of power, but of responsibility, a weight that would soon test his very soul. But while the tribe celebrated, on the horizon, a storm was already rising, a storm that would test his newfound destiny. Guided by instinct, Ursus discovered a new kind of victim, not of arrows, but of hunger and of ignorance. Moved by a compassion untouched by betrayal, Ursus offered his first act of nobility. The hunt that had kept him alive would now keep others alive. For the first time in days, the family saw hope reflected in their meal. Ursus brought live hens, whose eggs would become tomorrow's bread. It was more than charity. It was a lesson. The tribe, echoing the wisdom of their chief, taught them not to beg for fish, but to cast the net. They showed the fertile earth they had ignored. Hunted by men who sought to enslave him, Ursus fled the village with every ounce of cunning and speed, fighting only to survive. The settlers did not want to labor. They wanted slaves to labor for them, believing themselves masters above all. But the lesson was lost to greed. The strength they refused to use for harvest, they turned instead to chains. Ursus's compassion became the snare that bound his brothers. That night, the pupils surpassed the teachers in the only lesson the settlers understood, the lesson of power and of conquest. The cycle of violence began anew, but this time with a warrior fully forged.
I too am white. I too was brought across the sea as a child, and yet I do not claim to be a god, a master, or the owner of an Apache brother, or of any soul born to a different color.
The settlers fled, for if one man's fury was enough to break them, what would it be if the whole tribe rose against them? But they made a fatal mistake. They took their captives with them as they ran. Every hero has an origin. The Condor's story began on a ship, like so many others, leaving everything behind, chasing a dream that far too often turned into a nightmare. The family's fortune improved, but affection was never shared equally. The father's pride was always reserved for the elder son.
Can't you see how unfair you are? To the eldest you give everything, and to the youngest, barely a glance.
As the years passed, the conflict grew, until one day, the younger son chose a different path, one that would not be found beneath that roof. He shouldered a simple bag and left in search of his own freedom. Early maturity arrived in the silence of the woods. There he found a companion as broken and lonely as himself. He healed the bird, cared for it, and in time the hawk became his guide. It was the hawk, soaring high above, that led him to Geronimo's camp. One spirit had found another. Years later, curiosity drew him back. He saw his brother successful but empty, and his father aged, carrying regret. The reunion was bitter, though necessary. Forgiveness was offered, but too late to turn back time. One question burned in him. Where was his mother? His father finally confessed. She had searched endlessly for him, until she was lost in the vast wilderness. From that day, the Condor carried a new mission: to find the woman who had never stopped believing in him. But this time, the Condor would not fly alone. With Ursus U47 at his side, he would seek to free the enslaved Apaches and search for the mother lost in the endless frontier. They traveled for days, following the hawk across deserts and mountains, until the Grand Canyon revealed itself, like a sleeping giant guarding secrets of life and death. There they discovered the truth. The captives had been sold to a traveling circus, condemned to mockery and pain beneath the laughter of their oppressors. From the shadows, Ursus and the Condor prepared their rescue.
Guard change in 4 minutes.
Plan A, walk in. Plan B, break them out. Plan C, escape with the Apache brothers.
Who are you?
We're inspectors of noise, both outside and within.
Also, experts in the noise of animals and chains.
That's absurd. Is someone unhappy with our performance? We are the world's sensation. Do you know how many continents we've traveled to get here?
Of course we know. That's exactly why we're here.
More noise, more excitement enough to make those outside wonder what's happening inside.
And with the clatter of chains and the roar of beasts, curiosity will be the finest publicity.
With shouts, applause, and chaos, the chains thundered like war drums. In the uproar, the Apache captives escaped into the night. Only one mission remained: to find the mother, the heart that never stopped believing in the Condor. And still he rises, carrying hope for all who follow his flight.